Hello guys, and welcome to another React with 5 ways British and American meal etiquette is very different by Lost in the Pond. We just checked him out last time, and now we're going to watch some more of him. Maybe 3 in a row, like I did with 1 or 2 other channels, huh? I'm curious because I don't think we eat differently, but I didn't think we had different bedrooms either, so let's find out what makes them different.
Hear your accent and you are American, their ears might prick up a bit thinking, here comes a payday.
Like tips?
Hello, I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos.
Wait, is this like eating? Or is this like going out to eat?
And America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to how we eat, dining etiquette. It's so important, especially when you're meeting your American family for the first time.
Okay, that's different.
I'm not talking from experience, maybe just a bit. Cultural differences around the dinner table don't just come down to the words we use, like chips versus fries, or the dishes that we serve. So, you know, America's pecan pie versus Britain's spotted dick. And that is an actual dessert, okay? Look it up, just not on your work computer.
I don't want to look it up.
It's also about some of the mechanisms that we use to get it into our mouths. I'm still talking about food. And also some of the customs and politeness norms that comes with the process of eating. And so without further crab rangoon, here are 5 ways that British and American eating etiquette is very, very different. Whether you call it cutlery, like we do in Britain, or silverware or flatware, or in this case plasticware, because, you know, we are rationing, we can all agree that without them, meal times would be very, very...
You're rationing, so you have disposable, limited, plastic cutlery. I don't think that's how rationing works.
Messy, especially in America where they put sauce on everything. But the real question is, how do we hold them? And this was part of my existential crisis after I moved to the United States, because I grew up learning the European style, or as it might be known here, the continental style. And when I say that, I'm referring to what is the official utensil etiquette, right? As opposed to the official American etiquette. And I'm going to show you, I think anyway, some of the differences. I personally don't have either etiquette completely down because, in my wife's words, I still eat like a toddler. But it mostly comes down to how we hold the fork. In Britain, you hold it kind of like that, I think. So you've got it, the end of it's touching your palm, and then you sort of grasp it with your thumb and your pointy finger, and it's there for pointing downward, right? And you stick it into the potatoes or the strawberries or the spotted dick. And notice it's in my left hand. That's going to be important in a moment. And in the other hand, you have your knife, right? Usually like this, with the pointy finger right there, and it's touching your palm again. So consistent on both hands, right? It's almost an extension of you. You're almost Wolverine, but from the United Kingdom or Europe. And then you do this, right? Usually at a lower level.
Hang on a second. I don't understand. So like this, right? Wait, I have this in the wrong hands. My image is flipped, by the way. So you have to have the finger. Why would you put the finger? That makes this so much harder. My finger hurts already just by holding it like this. Why would you do this? What? No, you hold this in your fucking fist, you know? Like, this is how I'm holding it. And then the fork, what the hell do you do with the fork when you're cutting? I guess you just kind of do something like this, right? You just kind of hold it. You know, you just kind of hold it, jab it in there, cut that bitch up, scoop it up, numb. There you go. And you just, what is this finger nonsense? I don't know. Continue.
I can't see it because my arms are off screen now, so I'll put them back there. And then you cut into the potatoes or the strawberries or the creamy spotted dick. It can come with custard. That's normal. And voila, put it in your mouth.
That's too much work.
This isn't that scene.
Dude, that hurt my fingers just by trying to do that.
In Hook, where they eat invisible food. It goes this way round. Right, with the tines facing downward toward your tongue.
No.
In America.
Yeah, no. You saw me do that. That's not how that works. You poke it in. You just drag that bitch out. You scoop it in. You know, it's like.
It's quite a bit different, right? So people will hold their fork like this with the tines facing
Yeah.
upward. In other words, to kind of scoop up the
Yeah,
food,
so you
right?
scoop
So
it.
they'll do that, and actually sometimes, not every time. I mean, I'm sure there are people that circumvent all of the things you hear in this very list, but sometimes Americans won't even use a knife, right? You'll just see them scoop something up, maybe a potato. We won't go through the entire list again. Put it in their mouth. If they want to cut up things in that way, sometimes they'll do it with the fork.
Yeah, so you do that with cake. You know, like you use the fork to scoop up, like first you use it to cut the cake, then you use it to scoop the cake out onto your plate, and then you use it to like cut out a little piece and scoop that up. It's multi-purpose, man. It's a fork. Look, in this house we have forks, knives, and spoons. We go through all the forks before half of any of the other things. It's just the most versatile thing ever made. Fuck sliced bread. Just get a fork. You can slice the bread with the fork and pick it up and eat it.
Right? Don't recommend it with plastic forks.
Yeah, no.
You can get through these pretty quickly if you do that. But
Yeah.
if they do use a knife,
Metal
they
forks.
may turn the fork like this into the potato and then cut like that. You've got it there. You turn it back around.
What? Huh? No? Cut? No. So I stab that bitch in and then I cut. Then I take the fork out and then I take the part that I've now cut out and then I scoop it up. Maybe that's what he's
It's
saying.
in your gob.
I don't know. He's also doing this like finger thing still.
And there you go. Bob's your uncle. You've got potatoes. And, you know, that's what a lot of Americans do. My father-in-law, though, did this. He had it like that and like that. He'd turn it that way, and then like that. It sort of looked, I should tell you that my in-laws were cavemen. But it was through those very cavemen / dear relatives of my wife that I was first introduced to our next entry.
Honestly,
Yes.
I forgot this wasn't a video about forks and knives. I thought that was the focus of the video.
Saying grace, this one is quite a tough entry in many ways because, you know, in order to talk about it, I do have to somewhat generalize. And also, I don't have much data to back up what I'm about to say. It's more observationally driven, right? So when I lived in England for 27 years of my life, I don't say that with disdain. It was a good time. But in all that time, I don't really
27 years of your life. 5 years ago. Don't know how old he is now. He lived in England for 27 years and then he moved here and lives here now. I'm 28. I could have the same kind of life change at any moment. That's crazy.
remember sitting down to a dinner function of any kind and really sort of saying grace beforehand. In other words, kicking off the meal with a sort of faith-based thanks. Now, part of that, and again, this is where the generalization comes in, so bear with me, but in England, we tend to be less sort of like publicly open or just sort of even privately open, if you can be, among your family members about your religious beliefs. Whereas in the United States, I think people are more sort of proud of that, whatever their religious faith is. And so sometimes in some families, and this again could be regional, so I might well be generalizing, but some families, including the extended relatives that I married into, I didn't marry them, I married into the family. Some families, and I gather maybe quite a lot of families here in the United States, particularly at special events like Thanksgiving or maybe even a homecoming of some kind, will sort of say grace before the meal, and there'll usually be one family member who stands up and says it on behalf of the entire group, and then you say amen and go about your way. For me, it was quite weird at first, I think. Now, I'm very respectful of other people's religious beliefs. I didn't really know what to do except just sort of sit there and then wait for it to be done, and then because I had half a mind on the turkey. So
My older family members would do that. They would want to do that before anybody ate, and I feel like someone would always start eating first, and they'd be like, "Oh wait, we forgot." I don't do this. I mean, like, food's there to eat, right? I don't want it to get cold. I want to eat it.
So what you're going to do. And because I'm generalizing here, it's important for me to say that this is my experience. I'd be very interested to hear other people's experiences, other Europeans' experiences of coming here and maybe having to say grace when they're not used to it, or, you know, Americans that don't themselves practice this. I've also heard
I don't do
one
it.
step further here.
Well, first off, I also eat by myself in my room at my computer desk, usually while streaming or recording or editing. So, like, that would just be fucking weird, man. So, no, I usually just eat. Sometimes I will start eating, nomming, like basically moaning into the mic about how good the food is, but that's about it.
Where the whole family holds hands. You know, I definitely draw the line at that, especially right now. The best way that I can put this for British people watching back home is, you know, in football, when, you know, somebody dies and they have a minute's silence within the stadium, and then when the minute's silence is up, they all erupt in applause and all of that. It's kind of like that, minus the applause. You know, it's just an amen. But the energy after that is great because you all want to tuck into your food. And because the energy's so good, that leads us on to our next entry.
Table chatter.
Ooh, I don't mind.
Whatever this is, I'm not going to be able to relate to it because, like I just said, I eat alone in my room at my computer while working. That's it.
Chatter and exceptionally weird noises. And at an American dinner table, you're going to get a lot of chatter. Usually, again, this is another generalization, but on the whole, this is my experience. And I'm one of those people who doesn't think that Americans are always loud, as the stereotype dictates. But one exception tends to be in restaurants.
Is a stereotype that we're all loud all the time? I mean, I project for the recordings and the streams, so I might sound loud all the time, but a lot of the time, I'm just talking like this. Again, I think I did this example in the last video, but with the compression, I don't know how it sounds, but I just kind of talk kind of like quiet. This is still louder than I usually speak, and it's pretty monotone. So yeah, not very loud, not really.
Restaurants, right? I do hear the volume go up there as compared to Britain, where it feels like we're always battling with this war within ourselves to not air our dirty laundry in public. I'm not saying we don't talk at dinner tables, don't get me wrong. It feels observationally, once again, and again, there's no data on this. There's not somebody going around measuring the decibels in every restaurant in either country, especially right now because they're all closed. But that's my general experience of it. Now, I could be getting thrown off course a little bit here because, you know, my wife's family are really loud. Don't tell them I said that, although this is a public video. They know it's true. I've told them before, and that's why we've not spoken in a year. But here in America, you might be in a restaurant, sitting down with just one other person, trying to have a quiet, intimate conversation. And to your right, there's this really loud family with a 5-year-old running around with a stupid hat on that he got from the restaurant, right? So they're further enhancing the volume of said family. And then on the other side, there's clearly what is a date happening. And the woman is just sitting there quietly, looking quite glum, while the man very audibly and haphazardly talks about all of the Fortune 500 companies he's worked for. And she stares into space, presumably thinking of all the ways that she can get out of there. But on the other hand, once you do get used to that sort of raised volume, it does add to the atmosphere, you know. And if you're already in a good mood and you enter somewhere where, you know, thousands, oh, that's a huge restaurant, hundreds maybe, where there's lots of people and they're in a good mood and it just sort of bounces off the walls, you know. But speaking of restaurants, that brings us on to our next entry.
Wow. Right. Servers. My heart does go out to all of the servers and anybody else to whom this applies around the world who can't go into work right now. And a huge thank you to delivery servers who are able to keep people fed who might need it. But honestly, you hear the respect for, like, what is it called? The service industry all the time, but I don't get it. Like delivery drivers. What do you usually hear about delivery drivers? That someone gave a $5 tip, so the person made a rude comment or started cursing the person out, etc., because $5 isn't enough, which is crazy. Because the last time I gave a $5 tip, the person asked for me to specifically ask for him to deliver again because it was such a good tip. And these days, which inflation hasn't destroyed the value of the dollar nearly that much for that to be a problem. It's like $5. you're living in a house and you can only afford $5. It's like I ordered like $5 to $10 where I ordered like an $8 pie of pizza, and it came from down the block. I had to pay a delivery fee of like $3 plus tax plus all this other stuff, and you want a $5 tip. You're insane. And that's what I think of when I think of the service industry and delivery drivers.
You know, back in peacetime when the restaurants were still open, there was quite a marked difference between, you know, British servers and American servers, and the way they sort of conduct themselves at the dinner table while you're eating your dinner. In Britain, they're quite standoffish. And I know that's just a trait of British people in general. I get that. But they don't have the incentive, which we'll talk about in a minute, to constantly be coming back to your table and seeing how you're doing, checking if you need a refill on that water, because you probably won't get one anyway. I'm joking, of course you'll get a free refill on your water, just nothing else. Often, know this, if you want their attention, you're going to have to get their attention yourself, and that includes when it comes time to pay the bill. Whereas in the United States, and each restaurant has its different policy on this, you know, the waiting staff will come to your table every 5 minutes usually just to see how you're doing, and it's seemingly...
I feel like it's more like every 10 to 15 minutes.
It doesn't matter if you're in the middle of a seriously one-sided conversation about the Fortune 500 companies you've worked for. They will still come over and go, hey, what's up? How's that tenderloin working out for you? And there are a couple of big reasons, I think, that American serving staff do this. Firstly, the company often dictates it. It's seen as a kind of data-driven way of, you know, having good customer service. But having good customer service could well dictate this.
Nice.
They tried antifreeze with that. No. Well, he might go back to his milk phase eventually. Yeah. So the dreaded tip, or at least it was dreaded to me when I first moved to America. Actually, when I landed at Philadelphia Airport, this is the first time I remember having to sort of navigate the American tipping system.
I hate tipping. I think tipping is so fucking stupid. It's so stupid. It's so dumb. Every single angle of it is dumb. It started as a way for a rich person to say, oh, hey, thank you for the stuff. Give me more preferential treatment. Take money, you fucking peasant. Take my fucking money and put on a dance, you poor. Like, we have content creators for that now, but that's another thing altogether. But if you're working at a restaurant, for example, and then there's the tip, it's like the company is only paying you, like, let's say $2 an hour. The rest is tipped, unless you don't get tipped enough, and then they make it up to your actual wage. So, by tipping, you are just guaranteeing, because they say like, oh, you have to tip or I won't make enough money to live. Yes, you will, because you'll still get the wage. That's by law. You're going to get the full wage no matter what. And by tipping, what you're doing is you're just taking that expense off the company so that they don't have to pay them. Not as in pay them enough because the workers want more money. It's just the agreed upon wages. They just wrote in this loophole that the person signing up for the job agrees to. Like, oh, so if you're saying that I can get these randos to give me money, you don't have to pay me the money? Well, that sounds great. I think I'll do that. I'd love to save you money. And then the tipper. Why are you tipping? They're going to get paid. You know, you're just paying to make up for, well, nothing. You're just paying in place of the company. It only matters if the person gets so many tips that they make more than what they would have made otherwise with the full wage that they agreed to. This is gambling to an extent. Why are you tipping them? You're not rich. And that person's not poor by the same standards that tipping became a thing. It's not. That's not the situation at all. Everything about this is stupid. Why would you agree to work for a price that you can't live off of and then expect others to give so much money, like 4 times more what your employer is paying, to that, and then more, because everything beyond that 4 times is what is going to actually let you go above the wage that you agreed to, right? Why would you willingly do this. Oh, because there's not enough jobs. There's like so many jobs right now that they can't find anybody to do it. Employers are desperate all over the country. It's been this way since Corona. Yeah, but maybe you need a college degree or something. I don't have. A lot of these don't. Their standards are dropping like crazy, the requirements, because of the shortage of individuals looking for work, because so many individuals have just stopped looking for work. Not to mention, whenever a business of any sort, like a field, fails, do all those motherfuckers just die? Is that what you're telling me? So if all the waiting staff just stopped working because they're not getting paid enough, because their contract is fucking stupid, would they just die? No, that's not how that works. What happened when the more than 1 million women at the time, which was a lot more of a number of women that were working as phone operators, connecting calls, got fired because their job was made irrelevant by machines? Did they die? No, they didn't. They got different jobs. They got husbands that had money already, you know? Like, just do something else. There's always something else. It's not that hard. People are just so uncomfortable with stepping out of what they're used to, they'll make any fucking excuse to keep propping up the thing that they're complaining about. It's so fucking dumb. I'm going on a rant. Let's get back to the video.
Because I bought a drink at a bar at that very airport, and having bought the Jack Daniels, or 6, I'm not a good flyer. I turned to the gentleman next to me and I asked him, how does tipping work? And, you know, he very, very kindly offered, well, whatever the amount is on your receipt, just give them 85% of that. And that's about good. But that's
Please be a joke.
Standard. That was a lie. And I ended up almost bankrupt. Firstly, in the United States...
Nah, shut up. You didn't do that. Shut up.
Regardless of the amount, it's very much expected that you...
That's gotta be British humor or something. I know British humor is very, like, deadpan is the word, I think. Monotone, you know? Like, I'm pretty sure that's what that is British humor. I don't really understand British humor, but I think that was British humor.
Do tip, because that's basically how servers make their wage. And the standard amount...
No, it's not. It is not. They have to pay them the wage. They would if you just stopped fucking tipping. They would have to do it. They have to make up any shortfall. If they agree to work for minimum wage and you pay them $0, nobody tips them anything. You know what they're making? Minimum wage. The $2 they get paid is on top of tips if the tips make up the rest of the minimum wage. That's what that is.
That you're expected to tip is the complete opposite of 85%. It's 15%, right? But if you thought it was good service, or just to be sort of a good person, really, you can definitely tip more than that. I typically tip. Just try saying that after 6 whiskeys. I did that night. I typically tip, particularly if I'm on a trip, 20%, or, you know, I might even round up to 21 if it kind of requires it. Tipping of some kind is expected here. In the UK, if you're thinking of going there...
It really depends where and how, honestly. Like, if you go to a fancy restaurant, it's expected. Is there anything stopping you from just doing the bill and leaving? No. No. You just do it. What are they going to do? Spit in your food? You ate it. You already fucking ate it. And then with deliveries, are tips expected? Yes and no, but like, I feel like a lot of individuals don't. Why do you think there's a delivery fee? Because probably nobody's tipping. They have that delivery fee to pay the wages of the delivery driver. It doesn't go to the person as a tip, but it funds every expense related to having the delivery driver, is what it is. And so, like, when I went from having money to tip all the time to being poor, I just stopped tipping, because that delivery driver is making more money than me anyway. And a lot of the time, I just have, like, free pizza, gift cards, and things like that. And so I'm just like, okay, well, I'll treat myself today. And then anywhere else that they put these tipping machines now, no, don't do it. Everybody is sick of tipping except for Uber drivers and DoorDash drivers who think they're entitled to everything.
Firstly, don't do that right now, but if after all this blows over you are fancying going to the UK, then you're not required to tip at all, right? I mean, people get paid a sort of living wage, more or less, for being a server in the UK. It's good practice. If you want to do that, you certainly can. 10% is recommended. And, growing up in the UK, I never really did tip all that often, I must say. I think if I were to live there now, I probably would do so a bit more. It's not expected.
I think it'd be so funny to apply this logic too to like a DoorDash delivery or something. Like if I order an $8 pie of pizza and then I tip 10-20%, we're talking like $1.60 max. They would think you're the scum of the earth if you did that. You're giving them free money, 20%, they think you're the scum of the earth. Why didn't you give me the same price as the pizza? Well, because you're not a pizza, fuckface.
Servers aren't going to expect you to tip. Although, if they hear your accent and you are American, their ears might prick up a bit thinking, here comes a payday, right? Whereas it's the other way round here. As soon as servers hear a British accent, they must be filled with dread. Or maybe that's not true. Maybe servers hear a British accent and think, he's ripe for manipulation. I've had some bad experiences. That's it for this episode. Thank you for joining.
I've never left the country. I've been up and down the East Coast, which is pretty equivalent to going across Europe distance-wise. And then I've been into the Central Time Zone once as well, which at this point, if we're not going from Lisbon to Moscow already, I'm pretty sure we just did at that point when I went to Central Time Zone as well. Going from Maine to Florida to the Central Time Zone. I'm pretty sure we're there now. But I've never gone to another country. And I don't really have any I want to visit, so I only really need to understand how American things work.
Joining me today, and it's kind of sad that I couldn't practice a lot of these things for the video, except for the knives and forks, and those were the last plastics I have. As ever, a reminder that you can keep up with me and all my stupid ramblings on Twitter at LostInThePondUS. And if you've not had a chance to do so, why not subscribe to my channel so that my videos don't get lost in the pond? As ever, a big shout out to all my patrons who make spoons like this one possible. If you would like to become a patron of Lost in the Pond...
Why did you do that? It was your last one, you said. You just threw it on the fucking floor. I heard it. It's not even like you did the PC tech content creator thing where you put like something soft past the camera and then you throw a graphics card past the camera onto the soft thing so it's fine. You just threw that on the fucking ground. Your final plastic fork. Why?
Do so at patreon.com/lostinthepond. Until next time, keep eating, keep happy, and I will see you soon.
How are you going to eat without your plastic fork? Regardless, though, that was a funny video. That got me to rant a good bit. I've always been asked for a ResReacts series, and I feel like reacts are probably the best way to get that done. Give me a topic that you want me to rant on, and then there you go. It's solved. Because I don't know how to just break into a rant. It just kind of happens. But that's that. I'll probably check out another one of his videos before moving on or checking out something else. So if you want to see any other videos in general, leave those in the comments below, unless it's a link, in which case, leave that in the Discord in the description below, because YouTube will eat links. Regardless, that's it for today. So for now, thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.